This is 7 News, the voice of regional WA.
Tonight, a damning report into the death of a WA teenager being held in detention. $250 billion, the state's resources sector's record sales. How you can help recall the croaks of 1 million frogs.
And I'll have all the latest weather details for your weekend coming up soon.
7 News begins now.
Hello, welcome to 7 News. A damning report has found a series of failures by prison staff on the night a WA teenager self-harmed at Unit 18. It's been revealed some officers were watching movies, others were resting or sleeping, and many weren't carrying their radios.
Good afternoon. The state government has today admitted it let Cleveland Dodd down, releasing an interim report into how youth custodial officers responded to his threats of self-harm. Paul Papalia says there was a series of failures on the night of the teenager's attempted suicide. Cleveland was found unresponsive on October 12 in his Unit 18 cell at Casuarina Prison. Staff say they provided emergency first aid until paramedics arrived. The 16-year-old was taken to Sir Charles Gardner Hospital where he had been on life support, but he sadly died more than a week later, surrounded by family.
In my view, the internal investigation has clearly uncovered significant failures. Operational procedures were not followed on the night.
It's been revealed night shift staff in the control room were watching movies. One was believed to be sleeping and others were not carrying portable radios. The damning findings prompting the Minister and Commissioner to implement changes.
They are disturbing and confirm the need for significant cultural change.
I'm going to be rolling out new body-worn camera system. And that camera system would go in the first instance to our youth custodial officers.
But the government is still refusing to shut down Unit 18.
Unit 18 is not what we want, and it will be closed as soon as another suitable location is created.
If this arrogant government had just listened from day one, 18 months ago, and not opened Unit 18, we wouldn't be here today.
In the news at 6, what advocates say needs to change in our youth justice system so another tragedy like this doesn't occur.
And if you or anyone you know needs support, contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Almost 100 people held in indefinite immigration detention are cleared to be released following a historic High Court ruling. It's expected some of those detainees will be freed from Yonge Hill Detention Centre near Northam. Cyan Valance is there.
Good afternoon. Lawyers and advocates have been told today is the day. Dozens of detainees from immigration detention centres across the country will be released, including a handful from here at Yonge Hill. So far it's been quiet here, but we understand when detainees are released, it will happen very quickly.
They get 10 minutes notice that they're free. Or as soon as the Department of Immigration knows that they're to be set free, they contact Home Affairs will contact the prison fast, and the prison actually releases them all within the hour.
The decision follows a High Court ruling on Wednesday which found in favour of a Rohingya man who finished a jail term for a child sex offence in Australia and was then detained indefinitely. Now he's been released. The decision impacts at least 92 detainees across Australia, including an unknown number here at Yonge Hill.
What's actually been happening with Yonge Hill is an abomination. It's hideous reprehension. People who have served their sentences at this sense of double jeopardy extrajudicial.
The High Court decision is causing political controversy, but the ruling is clear. Advocates are warning detainees could demand compensation if they're kept inside.
Our state's resources sector has generated a record $254 billion in sales. That's $4 billion more than last year. Iron ore accounted for just under half of the total, with a record production of 861 million tonnes. LNG was up as well, $2 billion on last year. And on the back of expanding production and record prices, lithium has now become the state's second most valuable mineral, generating $21 billion in sales. This resources industry not only brings in more than $250 billion to the state, it also employs more than 126,000 full-time workers. There's a push tonight for urgent improvements to the patient-assisted travel scheme for regional WA. The Nationals want the state government to increase WA's fuel and accommodation subsidy rates.
A 1,000 signature petition.
We, the undersigned, call on the state government to ensure the patient-assisted travel scheme, PATS, meets the needs and expectations of regional WA residents who are the backbone of our state and its economy.
Each year, the state government-funded scheme reduces travel and housing costs for around 35,000 regional residents getting specialist healthcare far from home. But the opposition says the subsidies offered are too low.
Just 16 cents per kilometre and $106 per night for commercial accommodation in Perth. I challenge anybody to find somewhere in Perth where you can rent a room for $106 a night.
He says WA's fuel subsidy rate is the nation's lowest. In South Australia, it's twice as much, and in New South Wales, even higher, 40 cents per kilometre. There are also calls for better communication. In July, a Carnarvon mother told 7 News she had to move to new accommodation 3 times in Perth after the housing booked through the scheme suddenly became unavailable.
If we can eliminate administrative barriers, financial barriers, to allow these patients to focus on their health care, that will deliver better health outcomes for everybody.
The state government says it's substantially increased the scheme's accommodation subsidy and changed criteria to allow more vulnerable patients to travel with a support person. Jenny Shon, 7 News.
A survey of WA children highlighted a lack of food in many households across WA. Organisations who provide food for families in need say it comes as no surprise. And the problem in our regions runs even deeper.
It wasn't that WA children are going hungry that shocked researchers. It was just how many of them there were.
I was surprised that across the whole state, the number of children and young people who don't have enough to eat.
But according to food assistance groups, the number isn't a surprise. It's growing.
I'm actually not surprised. We see every day new households coming forward, particularly through the cost of living crisis that's escalated.
WA's regions are some of the hardest hit, with more and more households asking for help.
All of the regional branches have had a significant lift post-COVID, and all of the regional branches are seeing more significant lifts around the interest rate rises.
But the experts say there are even more who need support.
Only some 24% of households that are in a stressed environment for food are coming forward for formal food assistance.
Healthy eating is important in helping families transition out of poverty.
Fixing food in a stressed or vulnerable household is pretty critical to ensuring that there's a greater opportunity for the household to transition out of poverty.
Food assistance groups say we can all help.
That extra lasagna, serve up an extra volume of spaghetti bolognese, drop it in at your neighbour, bring it round to your friend or sister.
Josiah McMeekin, 7 News.
Vacancy rates across regional WA have fallen, making it even tougher to find a rental property. The latest report by PropTrack shows the rate is now sitting at 1.05%, falling 0.8 percentage points last month. Rental conditions have worsened over the last 12 months, with a much smaller share of properties that are available to rent right across the state. The RSPCA was in Busselton today offering free supplies and advice to struggling pet owners. The rise in cost of living is just one of the reasons pet owners are finding it hard to care for their animals. During the event, dogs of all shapes and sizes were microchipped, vet-checked and even given free food. It's the RSPCA's way of helping.
I really hope so. We're trying to do the best that we can and give back to the community and support people where it's needed.
The city of Busselton is in the top 5 regional areas for animal cruelty, with a 98% increase in the past year. A lack of food and vet care are the main sources of the problem. Scientists are asking for our help in their work to track frog populations. They've created a special app to record the croaks of frogs across WA and the nation. The data is then used to monitor frogs over time to understand how they respond to change.
From croaks to whistles and peeps, these are some of the noises we hear in the night. Australians are being asked to whip out their phones to help scientists learn more about frogs, simply by using an app.
We developed Frog ID here at the Australian Museum to get everybody across Australia be able to help figure out where our frogs are and how they're doing. And whenever they hear a frog calling, just press record for 20 seconds. So it's people power to the rescue in frog conservation.
These slimy creatures are important. They have quite a role to play in our environment.
Frogs are in a lot of trouble and they're really tricky to study. So we need everybody out there getting as much information as possible to save frogs. But frogs are also excellent bioindicators. So they give you an idea of how the environment in general is doing.
Frog ID Week finishes on Sunday. Scientists hope to reach 1 million croaks.
We're using Frog ID data to understand how frogs are doing, what might be the challenges in the future and how they are responding to some of the things that we're throwing at them at the moment, particularly with the changing climate.
Maya Grieve, 7 News.
The weather settling into a typical late spring pattern today. Here's Julian with the details.
Thanks, Noel. A trough over central parts of WA started to push eastward today as a high pressure ridge developed south of the state. Tonight there'll be some showers and thunderstorms over the north and possibly in the Gascoyne and the Goldfields. Taking a look at today's temperatures, it reached 40 degrees in Wyndham and Halls Creek, a low of 26 before 36 in Derby. It was a hot morning in Karratha, reaching its top of 34 at 10 a.m. and 41 today in Newman. An overnight low of 19 degrees in Carnarvon and Shark Bay, 13 in Morawa before a top of 30. Moving inland, it was cooler today in the Goldfields compared to yesterday, 32 in Laverton and 26 degrees in Kalgoorlie. A chilly morning in Collie and in Bridgetown, a low of 3 degrees, 24 the top in Narrogin, 23 degrees in Lake Grace, and it was a cloudy 20 degrees in Esperance. The Kimberley copped the most rain in the 24 hours until 9 a.m. 19 mils fell in El Questro, 16 mils in Marion Downs. Narracrup West recorded the most rain in our south, 2 mils, and there was a drizzle at the Albany Airport, 0.6 of a mil. To the weather wall, welcome to the students from Cassia Education Support Centre, and a big hello to Kira, Isabella and Amelia from Carnamah District High School. Excellent work, everyone. I'll have a look at your weekend's forecast right after sports.
OK, thanks, Julian. Up next on 7 News, across regional WA, police investigate a southwest crime spree and meet more winners from our Farm Dog of the Year.
Win one of 5 double passes to see Coldplay live in Perth. The West Australian is your last chance to see the British rock superstars. Simply pick up a copy of tomorrow's paper, get your unique code and enter it online for your chance to get into the sold-out show. Only in the West Australian tomorrow.
Police are on the hunt for a group of men tonight after a crime spree across our southwest. It happened between 2 and 7 on Saturday morning. It started in Davenport, where 2 vehicles were stolen. The group struck a liquor store in Dunsborough and a shopping centre in Broadwater. The group allegedly stole amounts of cash, alcohol and other items. They then targeted a Coles Express service station in Bustleton before heading to the Capel Tavern, threatening a staff member. The stolen vehicles were used to move between each location and then set alight. Police found one of the burnt-out cars near the Capel River, the other in North Boyna. Anyone with information should contact Crime Stoppers. Cruise ships have returned to the mid-west coast for the upcoming season. Geraldton today welcomed its first ship, the Coral Princess. About 2,000 passengers were on board, many of them flooding into the city. Geraldton will get 7 visits from 5 ships over the next few months. A total of 10,000 passengers are expected. Time now for a look at the commodities markets. Here's Jane Wardle from CBH.
Hello. WA's harvest is further along than normal for this time of year. More than 4 million tonnes of grain has been harvested already, reflecting the hot, dry end to the season. Australian wheat prices have been relatively steady for the week. Price pressure has mostly been negative. However, a missile attack on a bulk vessel in the Black Sea has boosted prices over the past few days. The market continues to look for China for demand. Heightened shipping risk in the Black Sea region has also affected the barley market, with Australian prices up. Internationally, demand remains steady for feed barley, but is weak for malting varieties. Canola markets haven't moved much this week. However, the price difference between GM and non-GM canola is increasing thanks to the lack of demand for vegetable oils in the US renewable energy market. And in the fertiliser market, the phosphate price remains supported, with China talking about more export limitations. Potash has weakened, as well as urea, with major buyer India sitting on good supplies. And that's a wrap for this week's grain and fertiliser markets.
Last week we announced WA's Farm Dog of the Year. Today we talked to Fern and her owner Amy. Tonight we can reveal the other winners of the People's Choice and the Hall of Fame Awards.
As we revealed last week, Fern from Mora was this year's Isuzu Ute Farm Dog of the Year. And as it turns out, entering the competition wasn't even the idea of her owner Amy.
It was my mum, actually. She sent me the link and she's like, enter the dogs, enter the dogs. And I was like, yeah, I'll get there. And then she kept hustling me and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this just to keep my mum quiet.
But that nagging nubbed the win. 14-year-old Fern took out the top prize.
I need to ring my mum and tell her that we won.
Fern's one of a few dogs at her Gillingarra homestead, and it's not hard to see why she's the favourite.
There's probably not much that I can't do with Fern. I think that's what I particularly like about her. She's a dog I can go and work cows, I can go and work sheep, paddock, yards. She can work cows and calves, which is particularly challenging for a lot of dogs. She can be a solo dog. She can be a team dog. She's just an all-rounder.
It was a tight race for the top spot, with Leo coming in as this year's runner-up. Nigel proved popular, taking out the People's Choice Award, with Roo jumping close behind. And therapy dog Ruby makes her way into this year's Hall of Fame, with Axel steering into second spot. For the full list of winners, search WA Farm Dog of the Year on Facebook or Instagram. Amanda Sabatino, 7 News.
Stay with us. Sport is next. Tonight, the Wildcats ready to roar with some regional help. And the Scorchers back into the WBBL top 3. A dominant batting performance by the Scorchers last night has sent them back into the top 3 on the WBBL ladder. Perth put out the heat last night with a 39-run victory in Brisbane. The win was set up by a masterclass performance from the skipper. Sophie Devine was awarded Player of the Match after she took 2 wickets and scored her 4th Big Bash century.
We knew that if we sort of wore them down a little bit and held wickets in the back end, that we could have a decent crack, and that's what happened. So good to score the runs on the board, but we knew that the Heat girls were going to come out at us hard. So, yeah, I thought the bowlers were outstanding. Piper Cleary, fantastic. And in the field too, I thought we did a great job.
The Scorchers put the cherry on top with their defence, bowling out the Heat in the 18th over. Bunbury's Chloe Paparo didn't need to bat as she was named further down the order again. Perth now head to Melbourne for a double-header weekend. 3 regional WA products are a chance to be recognised as some of the best young guns in the AFLW. Margaret River's Ella Roberts is one of the 44 players selected by the AFL Players Association in the 22 under 22 initial squad. The teenager averaged over 20 disposals a game in the midfield and forward line this season. Exmouth's Mim Strom has also been added after dominating in the ruck for the Dockers. And Kambalda's Abby Dowrick is a chance to be rewarded after a breakout year with Port Adelaide. The final 22 will be decided by the fans when voting opens next week. And the Wildcats will be looking to make it 3 consecutive NBL victories tonight when they face New Zealand. Perth are about to enter the court at RAC Arena, where they'll host the Breakers. Derby's Keanu Pinder is poised to be part of the starting 5 again after an impressive fortnight of basketball. The Wildcats entered the match full of confidence after their upset overtime win against ladder leaders Melbourne United on Monday. Tip-off is at 6:30 p.m. Julian's next with your weekend weather, and then in 7 News at 6, crime fighting tech, how air tags help to trip up thieves in suburban Perth.
Welcome back. Taking a look at the synoptic chart, a broad trough will remain over northern parts of the state through to next week, with a northwesterly flow developing over the Pilbara from tomorrow, and expect some possible showers and gusty thunderstorms over the south interior, Goldfields and the Gascoyne. Those conditions will continue on Sunday, where a possible morning sprinkle may hit along the south coast of Albany. The trough in the north will move further inland, heading south from Monday, and afternoon showers and thunderstorms in the Kimberley and Pilbara will continue next week from Tuesday onwards, and there's a chance of showers and gusty thunderstorms over the south interior, Eucla, Goldfields and the Gascoyne. A stormy 36 degrees in Columbaroo tomorrow, 35 in Kununurra, clear skies in Derby, 33 and sunny in Broome and Karratha, and 40 degrees the top in Newman. Sunshine in Carnarvon, 27 and gusty in Denham, possible storms in Murchison and Meekatharra, and windy conditions along the central west, 33 in Geraldton and 32 in Morawa. Partly cloudy in the southwest, 24 the top in Margaret River, windy conditions in Augusta, cloudy in Albany, an overnight low of 8 in Bridgetown, and a mostly sunny 28 degrees in Northam and Merredin. Overcast conditions in Esperance, a low of 10 before 25 in Norseman, and a shower or 2 in the Goldfields, with a maximum of 24 in Leonora and in Laverton. To local waters, there's a strong wind warning in place for the Gascoyne coast. Winds will reach up to 30 knots in the early afternoon. Strong winds also further down the border all the way to the Lewin coast, where winds will reach up to 30 knots during the afternoon and the evening, and swells will reach up to 4 metres in height. Light to moderate winds along the southern border. Winds will reach up to 25 knots east of Esperance and up to 25 knots east of Ayr early in the morning and returning again in the evening. Taking a look around the rest of the country, possible storms in the Northern Territory, 29 the top in Brisbane, windy in Sydney and Melbourne, 24 in Adelaide, and a mostly sunny 29 degrees in Perth. Good night.
Thank you, Julian, and that's our look at news around WA for the week. To see any of our reports again, go to 7plus to catch up. 7 News from Perth is next. We'll be back on Monday live at 5:30. Have a great weekend. Good night, Western Australia.